Good evening. I will now call to order the February 10th, 2022 Board of Commissioners working session. This is the first working session that we're having in this format, and so we don't have any minutes to approve because this is the initial meeting, and so we will turn to public comment on agenda items. There is only one agenda item this evening, as you can see, so if anyone here wishes to comment on the agenda item, please do so.
Can you explain to me the decision-making and the difference that went on between the committee of the whole and the working session?
Yes.
And why the change was? Thanks.
So the committee actually was a vehicle where every matter before the board went and there was a vote taken on what would happen with that matter next, whether it would be referred to committee, whether it would go to the full board meeting, whether there would be a public information session. And we found that that turned out to be a bottleneck in terms of getting business done. So we did away with that to have more flexibility, to be nimble in addressing issues that come before the township. The working session is simply that. We are not here to take a vote this evening. Tonight we're going to get educated about what's happening with our trash and recycling transportation, and so that when it does come forward for a formal review and vote at next month's meeting, there'll have been plenty of time for discussion and review. So the working session is meant to provide more time and context to absorb the matters before taking a vote. You're welcome.
This is Laura Lehman. I'm just stunned at that answer. That does not explain how you have taken away the committee meeting. At a committee meeting, you would have presented this, we would have discussed it. Individuals would have had 3 minutes at that particular item, and you took all that away. First, you skipped over it. You actually figured out a way to not say we're removing your committee meetings. Now it appears you've removed our committee meetings. Is there ever going to be a Public Works? Is there ever going to be a Public Affairs meeting again? I asked that before at the last meeting here. I said, are we going to have land use again? We want a full explanation of what you're planning to do.
I'll stop the clock and I will answer that question. So,
thank you.
So the Public Works, Public Affairs, Public Safety Committees are no longer in operation. We replaced those with the Comprehensive Plan Consistency Committee, the Strategic Planning Committee, and the Infrastructure Committee, so that we could align our activities around the strategic priorities of the township. And so the Comprehensive Plan Consistency Committee will be the committee where proposed text amendments go if there is reception among the board for that formal process. Standard land use cases will come before the board, but they can come to a working session before they go to the board, depending on whether the board believes that there is a significant discussion warranted as opposed to something that's relatively straightforward. There will be one committee meeting every month in addition to the Finance Committee, which meets, and the schedule for those committee meetings has been published on the township website. And you can see the individual committees will meet quarterly unless special meetings of those individual committees are required, and then they will be scheduled as needed. Ms. Lehman, I'll allow you to continue.
Thank you. So I appreciate that short answer, except that still doesn't explain a lot of things. So we have, for instance, PREET in the waiting. We don't understand, is that going to come before the Infrastructure Committee? Is that going to wait for the Comprehensive Plan Consistency Committee, which is supposed to open the zoning? And as I understand it, this can meet 4 times a year, open the zoning and change the zoning in our township.
So if you'll stop the clock again, Ashley, so the board has the option to decide where that matter would go next. And if we were to decide that it was the Comprehensive Plan Consistency Committee that was the appropriate vehicle, we have the opportunity to schedule a special meeting of that committee for the purposes of reviewing that matter. Manager Manfredi, you look like you want to say something.
Yes, Commissioner Hecker, I thought I just heard you in your explanation say that text amendments would go to the Comprehensive Plan Consistency Committee before that comment was just made.
That is true.
So yes, text amendments or map amendments to the zoning ordinance, and it's clear in the scope, which is on the website, that that goes to the Comprehensive Plan Consistency Committee. And whenever a text amendment comes in that is received by the board to be reviewed and considered publicly, that's where it will go, as you said when you first gave your explanation.
Thank you. We can resume the clock.
So now my question is, if a text amendment comes in and it goes to the Comprehensive Plan Consistency Committee, does it have the option at that meeting to open the zoning and say, okay, we're going to zone this the way your text amendment requests it? Okay, this is. you don't understand.
Stop the clock again. So that committee would have the option to endorse it going forward to the full Board of Commissioners for consideration to advertise a public hearing for the purposes of making those requested changes. The Comprehensive Plan Consistency Committee does not have the authority to make that determination on its own, but it can vote to move the process forward to the full board.
So who votes it into the Comprehensive Plan Committee? Where does it come first so that somebody says, well, that's going to go?
Go ahead, Manager Manfredi.
The reason you establish a policy is so that it is very clear, public, and transparent what the process is. The resolution that was discussed, the process, the policy, all of that, which you're calling confusing, is on the website. There was a lengthy presentation discussed prior to adoption. But very clearly, it lays out that if there is a text amendment that comes in and it is to be considered, it goes to the Comprehensive Plan Consistency Committee. That policy tells me, as the township secretary and manager who's supposed to prepare the agenda, where it goes. So the decision has been made on what the process is.
So if I can just tell you that, I was there when you gave that presentation about everything being totally clear. And the end result of that presentation was it was so completely unclear because you literally could decide at every meeting where you wanted it to go next. So there was no clear path. You had to go to the meeting and find out what was going to come next at the last minute. And that was not how it always has been. It always went first to the committee, then to plan, then back to the committee, and then recommended to the board if it was going to a hearing. We had a very clear process. Now the process is whatever you want to make it. And so this is, and now you're adding that it first goes to the Comprehensive Plan Consistency Committee. That didn't even exist when you gave that presentation. So are you planning to give another presentation? Because this is unbelievable that we can't figure out where Preet is going to come next. We can't figure out where Toll Brothers is going to come next. We can't figure out what the full range of possibilities for the comprehensive plan are. It's mind-boggling.
Go ahead,
It's just-
Manager Manfredi.
Is she concluded?
Well,
I don't know how many different ways to answer the same questions. It's been asked different ways the same way.
Where is Preet coming next?
Preet will go to the Comprehensive Plan Consistency Committee because it is a request for an amendment to the ordinance via
And
map and text. Then Toll Brothers would do the same. I don't know how many different ways to say the same thing. I apologize. I don't understand
Then you
why this is
said.
difficult to understand.
But then you said it's going from that committee and they'll recommend it to the board. So where's the planning commission? Where are the places?
Well, in the case of Preet, it has already been to the Planning Commission. Then it will also, if the board decides to advertise that ordinance and move it forward, there is a process that it has to go to the County Planning Commission. It gets advertised, and then there's a public hearing on it. The law is very clear as to what the process is, and we follow the law. And the process will be the same with Toll Brothers or anyone else who makes a request that the board is willing to consider. It's very clear.
So that becomes in effect like the land use committee, and you are not going to open the zoning at that meeting ever?
The agenda item, as you know from understanding the Sunshine Law, if the agenda item is to consider the map and text amendment, that is not opening the zoning or the zoning map or anything else. It's specific to that item as duly advertised. This idea that it's going to open zoning and all of the zoning is going to change and TODs are going to go everywhere as a result of that is just not accurate.
Well, you're making hyperbole. What you did say, and
There's no exaggeration for rhetorical effect here, Ms.
Ms. Lehman,
That's
I'm
a
going to
fact.
ask you to wrap up. Your time has expired.
okay, I'll ask this last question. What you did say is that you were going to take the comprehensive plan and you were sending it to the Comprehensive Plan Consistency Committee, which is already, those two names are confusing, but you're going to send it to the Consistency Committee, and the Consistency Committee is going to make sure that the zoning adheres to the vision.
No, Ms. Lehman, I
That's
did not
excellent.
say the comprehensive plan. I did not say that. I did not say the comprehensive plan was going to the Comprehensive Plan Consistency Committee. You asked where PREET was going, and I said PREET was going to the Comprehensive Plan Consistency Committee.
Okay, thank you for your comments. We have one item of business this evening, and that is for us to consider alternatives for the transfer station operations, the transportation hauling, and recyclables processing of the township-generated recycling materials, and we're going to hear from Mr. Mike Jones.
Good evening, Commissioners. It's a pleasure to stand before you for the first time in 2 years since start of this pandemic. Hopefully it's a sign that we were slowly starting to come out of it.
Let's hope.
Tonight I'm going to present on the recycling transfer station operations and services. A little background and to put it in context, the map that's on the side of the screen shows the Abington wastewater treatment plant, across the street the Abington transfer station. The recycling transfer station that we'll be referring to sits just above at the top of the screen, above the Abington Township wastewater treatment area. We are members of a local recycling consortium, and this is made up of Abington Township, Upper Dublin, Springfield, Cheltenham, Upper Moreland, Hatboro, and Plymouth. And when I speak of the consortium throughout the program, we have 3 staff members that sit on the committee and are part of the group that discussed the bid process. What we do is we collect the recyclables at curbside. We take them to the transfer station on Fitzwatertown Road. We dump them. And then the recycling contractor moves them from that site to their processing facility. The Abington Township transfer station is owned by Abington Township. It sits in Upper Dublin Township, and it was built with through the consortium with DEP funding. J.P. Mascaro and Sons has operated this facility since 2015. Like I said earlier, we dump there. They then load the trucks and haul the trucks to their processing facility in Birdsboro, PA. The cost for this service is $145 per ton to our township and to the rest of the consortium, and that contract is due to expire in April. Previous to this action that we'll be asking for have been 3 previous board actions, and that was 3 6-month extensions on the existing contract. The consortium began to meet early last year. Early on, we hired MSW Consultants to help lead us through the bidding process. They recommended 3 separate bid options. Bid option 1, recycling transfer station operated by independent operator. There was only 1 respondent to this bid option, and that was J.P. Mascaro and Sons. Second bid option was hauling by an independent operator. Once again, Mascaro and Sons was the only respondent. Bid option 3 was processing by independent operator with the township direct hauling and the township operating the transfer station ourselves. The respondents were J.P. Mascaro and Sons and Republic Services. What we're asking is that we reject bid option 1. Bid option 1 was the operation of the recycling transfer station. As you can see on the costs are an increase on the previous extension, and it was hard to sustain our current fees if we went with this price. We would utilize our own staff and operate the transfer station ourselves at this point. We're also going to ask to reject bid option 2, which was the hauling of the materials. It's much more affordable for us to use our own trailer and to move the the commodities that we're collecting at curbside to the processor. As you will see on the cost analysis here, it'll cost us approximately $20 a ton or $329 a load to move the stuff to the processor, where JP Mascaro in year one was going to be almost $55 a ton and cost almost $900 per load to haul it to their processing facility in Birdsboro. The recommendation that we're going to ask for is the independent processing of the materials. And we're going to ask that Republic Services be awarded this contract. The contract terms would be for 7 years with 3 one-year extension options at $105 per ton. Before I go on to revenue share, that $105 is a much better cost to us than the $145 we are currently paying per ton to dispose of or to have our recyclables marketed and sold. The revenue share component is where we have the processor market and sell the commodities that they are accepting at their facility. And this amount is it's not factored into the quoted amount. So that $105 that we said we would accept as a 7-year, potentially 10-year bid would be usually far less than that amount. For example, just in year 2021, the month where the recyclables, the market was down, we had to pay $65 per ton or $18,000 for that month to dump the recyclables. On a month when the recyclable market was really high, Mascaro paid us $27 a ton, or they paid us $7,700 for that month. So you can see the fluctuation in the marketing of recyclables, and that's something we see every year. This is just a graph showing the terms of the bid. You can see the 5-year bid, JP Mascaro was $99.35 a ton, and Republic came in at $105. The committee, along with MSW, looked at the bid and decided that to get the most bang for our buck, that going with Republic for the 7 to 10 years and locking in that price of $105 a ton and being able to direct haul to Republic, which is 15 miles away, versus an option of hauling to Birdsboro, which is 48 miles away. There are a few alternatives that we're going to look at moving forward, future considerations. And they are: the consortium is going to continue to meet and look at the site on Fitzwatertown Road. If we can organize a waste authority or enter into an intermunicipal agreement, that'll open up some doors on funding and give us additional grant opportunities through the DEP, where we could apply for grants to purchase trucks and trailers and then operate the site over there as it is being operated today, as Mascaro operates it. Right now, our option, and what we're asking for, is Abington Township would solely operate the transfer station and move just our commodities, our recyclables, to the King of Prussia Republic operation. We would also conduct a feasibility study for the township to run and operate this recycling transfer station under the guise of operating it for the consortium, if the consortium is able to come up with funding for the equipment. And the alternative 3, which we did not want to happen, was to shut down the facility on Fitzwatertown Road and shutter that facility, and then we would potentially have to pay DEP back money for the grants that were used to purchase, or not to purchase, to build the facility over there the way it stands. An impact on our current services. There would be no change in our services. Everything would be collected the way it is currently collected at curbside. The savings from direct haul will allow the township to stabilize our refuse fees. What we paid for recycling processing this year will be less than it was last year. An immediate savings of $40 per ton from the $145 to the $105 will be an approximate savings of $136,000 annually. So rather than shuttering and abandoning the existing station, we would utilize the facility to dump our recycling and transfer the material. That is my summarization of the recycling program, and what we're asking is to accept the 7-year Republic Transportation or the Republic Services Agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Manager Manfredi, and then I'll open it up for questions from my colleagues.
Mr. Jones and Ms. McElvain, can you please go back to the alternative slide? I just want to ask one question and make sure the commissioners are clear on the alternatives as it relates to the presentation this evening. The future considerations are not for consideration this evening. These are possible alternatives that would be considered down the road, but we wouldn't really be talking about this within the next few years, correct?
That is correct.
So
We're
just
going to
want everyone-
evaluate the way that we operate after this contract would be accepted, and after Mascara would move on, and see how these alternatives could benefit us in the future.
But it would be how many years out?
We would not start to evaluate until 6 months to 1 year down the road to see how it's working for the municipalities. The other 6 municipalities will direct haul with their curbside trucks from Upper Moreland or Cheltenham to King of Prussia, and that's what we are avoiding in the services that we're recommending tonight, that we would move our material, dump our material, and load it into our trailers and take it once, twice, 3 times a week to King of Prussia, so that our curbside trucks are not driving to King of Prussia daily.
Understood. Thank you. Commissioner Schreiber?
I'm assuming that we have the manpower and the equipment, the trailer that you refer to, that we have it and it's in good working order, and this won't, like where we need to buy a new trailer or something to do this, and it's all,
Correct. We
Okay,
have
so
we have
everything's
equipment
paid for.
now, and we would utilize our existing manpower, our existing staffing that is operating the trash transfer station.
and the staff wouldn't, because they're now leaving Abington, going to King of Prussia, it's not changing our staffing?
No, it would not, and just one option, right now, the asphalt provider for our asphalt, and it's going out for bid now, is right next door to this plant. We could potentially take a load of recyclables, dump it, get loaded with asphalt, and come back for our job.
Okay,
So we're working through the logistics of how we're going to move the material daily.
okay, sounds good.
Commissioner Vehy?
So, Mr. Jones, just want to start with commending you and everyone you worked with. You clearly put a lot of time and diligence to make sure we're saving taxpayers as much money as possible in the refuse collection. I know our staff works really hard to make sure our budget is reasonable and taxes go to pay for essential services, so thank you for that. So, a year or two ago, we had begun debating there was an idea that we could use the transfer station, we could lease it, or we could generate a profit off that facility. How does that fit into this?
Well, the trash transfer station is what we were talking about at that time.
Okay.
And right now, we're seeing a benefit by the savings. In the future, at some point, we may be able to start accepting trash from other municipalities.
Okay.
Then that's when we could see a bigger impact on our budget if that happens.
Okay.
But there's a lot of stuff that has to take place before that starts to happen.
So I didn't appreciate that. We have a different recycling transfer station and garbage.
Where's the trash
Okay,
transfer
so-
station, correct?
And we're still looking at garbage. This is our plan for recycling now.
Correct.
And then the memo that was attached to the agenda referenced something about taking this back to the boards by January 26th. The timing, I noted from the memo that it was just not possible with our schedule. Do we have an issue with timing to get this done?
We will be within our limits if we vote on this at the March meeting.
Okay.
Because of when the contract ends in April, it will still give us enough time.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Commissioner Carswell?
So I work with a number of colleagues who live in municipalities in Bucks County and elsewhere in Montgomery County who, over the last, let's say, 12 months, time is a little fluid for me, had a lot of issues with trash collection. And I have to say, I bragged, we never had those issues here. they had those issues for all the same reasons places around the country are, lack of drivers, issues with, cars or trucks breaking down and not having the ability to get the supplies to repair them, et cetera, to the point where there were trucks with trash rotting and parked on someone's street. So I know that people say that Abington's not what it used to be, but this is one service that has truly not changed, and I really appreciate that. I'm curious, in your experience with the RFP, if the conversation about some of the supply-related issues or the labor-related issues factored in.
You're asking how the supply issues are factoring in?
Yeah, mostly, I'm excited about the idea of keeping the jobs local because I know our team works so hard and we don't run into those issues. With these other firms, some of them, they just didn't have the staff. And when a truck broke down, it just got stuck there. Or they weren't getting collections on a routine schedule. I think that when we're bringing it more in-house, we will not see those issues. But I'm curious about how, when you were looking at outside firms, Mascaro and Republic, if that was something that you were also looking at.
Across the board, there was 21 different companies that looked at the bid. And a lot of the big name companies, Waste Management, some of them decided not to bid on it. Most of them decided not to bid on it. But all of them are having the same problems that you mentioned with drivers, with supplies, with new vehicles and stuff on those lines. That's something that we do not have with our in-house service. And talking to MSW, which is the Mid-Atlantic Waste Management, the consultants that helped us out here, more and more municipalities are looking into that option to go back to providing their own trash service, or they've never been there and they want to go there. And we know this firsthand because some local municipalities from Bucks County have recently visited Abington to look at our program. Hopefully that answers your question.
Well, I'm glad they're looking at you guys because you've done a great job.
Thank you.
Mr. Jones, can you just describe the process, the bid process, as it related from the consortium and this bid, and who actually prepared this bid and why it's in front of the board tonight?
With the consortium, Upper Dublin took the lead with this. It was the cost share through the consortium. We paid our portion, but Upper Dublin has used their solicitor, and they have done the entire bid process through them with input from the other municipalities.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Commissioner Thompson has his hand raised on Zoom.
Thank you, President Heger. Mr. Jones, I just want to echo what everybody else has said. Thank you for the financial diligence that you've put into this. We really appreciate you watching out for the fiscal aspects of township residents. That being said, this is kind of a balanced discussion. And one of the other things that we have to really consider in this is sustainability. Maintaining a sustainable environmental stewardship for the community for years to come. One of the bidders in this packet, in the technical document that you provided today, rises to the top in terms of sustainability, in terms of the type of plastics that they can recycle. JP Mascaro is one of the few that actually recycles flexible plastic packaging, which is basically the small sandwich baggies, the packaging that comes off of foods, the plastic cups that we pick up at Dunkin' Donuts. They are able to recycle a lot more plastics that we use on a day-to-day basis than Republic can. So despite the fact that Republic is closer and there probably is a smaller carbon footprint in terms of transporting those plastics to King of Prussia versus Birdsboro, have we done a carbon footprint analysis to figure out exactly what the carbon emissions would be when we divert a lot of plastic off to incineration when Republic can't actually recycle this stuff?
No, we haven't done that type of analysis. What we did we did ask Republic about their future use of that type of flexible plastics. Right now, Mascaro is the only one in the region that's doing it, and one of the reasons is you need so much of it to have enough. If you figure you might have 4 municipalities put together to make a small amount of plastics once it goes through their processing. So it's something that's not feasible for a number of the processing plants to invest in collecting that flexible plastic when it's, when you need so much of it to have any type of impact.
So despite the fact that we're giving Republic a recycling contract, we're not going to have enough plastic for Republic to recycle?
There's many different types of plastics. It's just that type of plastic, the chip bags, the baggies that you said. You need so much of that in order for someone to invest in processing and collecting it. Mascaro is the only one that does do it, and we did go to their plant, and it could run for 8 hours and just produce a small amount of recyclables because it's so compacted, and it wasn't something that we looked at that was a game changer when it came to looking at Republic and Mascaro. The cost was so much greater if we stayed with Mascaro, that was really not something that we looked at. It's something that Republic is always looking at, but right now the market versus what they would have to invest to be able to collect it, market it, and move it out as a commodity.
So when township residents are recycling plastics, what exactly are they throwing in the blue bin?
Soda bottles, the plastic coffee, milk bottles. There's a lot of stuff. I don't have it in front of me for the plastics like 1 through 6, and we're referring to a 7. I believe is what the flexible plastics are. So yes, the clamshells that you get from takeout food, that's all part of that is recycled by Republic. It's just those flexible plastics, flex plastics that Mascaro does recycle, but none of the other processors do.
Thank you.
Are there other comments or questions from members of the board? Okay, well, with that, Mr. Jones, I thank you for your presentation, and I echo the sentiment of my colleagues. We appreciate the hard work of you and your colleagues.
Thank you.
And with that, we are adjourned.